Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to another video. So I've created a new version of the Blu-ray exploit, or a new AIO that uses, of course, the original Blu-ray exploit version 1.2 from Gegine, although this version has everything you need to set up the jailbreak fully included on the disk itself. And this means that it does not require any USB drives or any other devices. It doesn't even require an internet connection, so you can set up the jailbreak entirely offline if you wish. Everything you need is included on the disk. Obviously, the payload, the Gold Hen payload, which actually is the thing that essentially jailbreaks the console, that is included on the disk, and it will only load the one on the disk and copy it to the hard drive if there isn't already a payload, a Gold Hen version, on the hard drive or on a USB drive. That way you can easily update it with new payloads from a USB drive or by copying it over with FTP. So it only loads the one from the disk as a last resort, which is one of the problems we've had with some of the other versions that just load it off the disk, because if a new version comes out, a new Gold Hen payload, you can't really update it if it's just loading the old one from the disk all the time. So that's been addressed in this version. But not only that, but you've got your cheats, patches, plugins, and payloads and homebrew all included here on the disk as well. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to fully set this up here so you can jailbreak entirely offline without any other devices. All you need is this Blu-ray disc. And then we can simply eject the disc and insert it into the PS4. So once you have it inserted into the PS4, it should look something like this. So if we head over to our settings and go to the network settings, we can see that the connect to internet option is disabled. Now you don't have to stay offline, but just for the sake of showing that it can work as an offline solution, I'm going to stay offline here for this setup. So I'm not connecting to the internet here. I still recommend going to System and Automatic Downloads and making sure you uncheck the boxes here so that you don't have system software update files selected, just in case there's any, system updates on a game disk, for instance, that try to get installed when you launch it. It might be worth just disabling those even if you're offline. And then also in your system information, this jailbreak only works up to firmware 12.02. So as long as your system software version is anything from 09.00 to 12.02, any firmware in between, you're fine to set up the jailbreak here. But if you're higher than 12.02, this jailbreak is patched, so you will not be able to use this. Now, there is one issue about this being a completely offline solution. It's technically not completely offline if you've never loaded a Blu-ray disc on your PS4 in the past on that console, because if you're loading a Blu-ray disc for the first time ever, it does require an internet connection to enable Blu-ray playback. Unfortunately, if you do get this message, you will need to connect to the internet just temporarily so that you can enable that feature, so that when you load the Blu-ray disc, it will allow it to load and you can say yes to enable the Blu-ray Live feature, BD Live. Just say yes to enable that if you're running the disc for the first time, and then you can immediately disconnect from the internet again once you've done that. Hopefully, if you've loaded a Blu-ray disc on your PS4 in the past, then you can stay offline and it should load just fine. Also, if you have HDCP disabled, it will not allow you to launch the Blu-ray disc, so that option needs to be enabled in your system settings in order to get the Blu-ray disc to launch. So anyway, with that all said and done here, we should be all good to go. So I can go ahead and run the Blu-ray disc. And I do not have a USB drive or anything inserted. I don't have, the payload already on the hard drive or anything. So we're basically dealing with a stock system here with no jailbreak previously set up. So what happens is the disk runs and we get our notification, version 1.2. The AIO patch gets completed, which fixes the black screen and save data corruption. And then it finds the payload on the disk and it then copies it to the data folder, so that the next time we launch it, it will just run from the data folder on the hard drive instead of the one on the disk. And there we go, we get Gold Hen loaded, which is our jailbreak. Now, obviously, this will not work first time necessarily. So when you first load this, it might say the jailbreak failed and you need to reboot, in which case you just restart the PS4 and try again. No big deal, just keep doing that until it eventually works. So we now have Gold Hen running completely off the disk without any USB drive or anything else required there. But that is not all. So if we go ahead and close this now, what we can see here, if I go to the Gold Hen settings and the plugin settings, we do not have the plugins loader or the game patch plugin installed. So there's no cheats, patches, or plugins installed. But we can install everything we need here from the disk, because if I go to the Gold Hen settings and then the debug settings package installer, you'll see that a bunch of homebrew applications show up, a bunch of package files, and these are all stored on the disk itself. So we can just select install all, and we can get all of our main homebrew applications installed. Now, I just added the main sort of utility homebrew applications onto the disk. Obviously, there's lots of other homebrew applications for customization and various other features, but these are sort of the main homebrew applications that give you additional functionality with the console. The ones that I would definitely recommend having. So they're all available here on the disk. It will take a little bit longer to install them from the disk because obviously the read speed is slower than reading it off a USB drive or off the hard drive. So it will take a little bit longer to install these, but they are pretty small homebrew applications, so it should only take a few seconds to install each one. And that will get all of your main homebrew applications installed off the disk. So again, no need for an internet connection to install these, or for another device like a USB drive. So there we go, just like that, we now have all of these homebrew applications. We've got the Homebrew Store, PS4 Explorer version 2, Items Flow, we've got the PS4 Cheats Manager, Payload Guest, and the Apollo Save Tool for managing your save files. We'll just hit the Options button and add these to a folder. And I will go ahead and call this folder Homebrew. So Homebrew, and then we'll select all of our Homebrew applications that we just installed, and we'll click OK. And the great thing is we can always reinstall these. So if they ever get removed or deleted, we can just insert this disk again and go back to the package installer and reinstall them again from the disk whenever we want to, which is pretty great. So all of those are now installed. Now, another thing we can do is also install the payloads for Payload Guest, because if you're offline, then getting access to the payloads with this jailbreak is quite tricky, because normally we load the payloads from like a web-based exploit. So we need to use Payload Guest, so we could install those so that we can run the payloads offline. And then also the cheats, patches, and plugins for Gold 10, we also want to install those as well. So what we can do is simply head over to PS4 Explorer, and this will allow us to install everything else that we need. So we'll select the root access option, and then simply select the MNT folder, and then the disk folder, and then we have an extras folder if we select that option with X. And then we've got two folders here, Cheats Manager and Payloads. We can press R1 to select both of these folders, so they're both highlighted, and then press triangle and select the option to copy both of them. Then we simply press circle 3 times to get back to the root directory, and then go up to the data folder here on the hard drive and simply press the triangle button and paste them in here. And then just let that copy. Again, it may take a little while because it has to copy them off the disk with the lower read speeds. But as you can see, we now have the Cheats Manager folder and the Payloads folder now installed. So what this means is that for one, if we load up Payload Guest, we should have all of the payloads available here, so we can load any payload we want from here. So if I go ahead and run, say, the Disable Updates payload, you can see it runs there, Disabled Updates, PS4 12.02. Now, because we're running Gold 10, updates are already disabled anyway. Gold 10 automatically blocks system updates. It basically applies the update blocker by itself. So that's not a requirement to run the Disable Updates payload. That's just an example of loading a payload there. So all of your payloads are now available. And then also we can finally install the cheats, patches, and plugins using the PS4 Cheats Manager. We'll be able to see here that we don't currently have any cheats, patches, and plugins installed. If I select cheats, it says no data found. Patches, it says game patch plugin is not installed, and then there's no data found. So if I go to the update section here, I can go to update cheats, patches, and plugins from the HDD, select that option, and we can see we have a cheats.zip, patches.zip, and plugins.zip now available. So I can just select cheats with X, and that will extract those files, which were copied off the disk with PS4 Explorer to the data folder. So there we go, successfully installed the offline cheat data. And then we'll do the same with the patches, and that will install the patches, and then the plugins, and that will install the plugins. There we go, done. So now you'll see that if I go over to the cheats section, we do in fact have a bunch of game cheats available. So there we are, 2,864 cheats available. As you can see, they're all showing up in here. And then the same thing with the patches. You can see that we do in fact have a bunch of patches, 427 patches available. So, well, 427 games with various patches available. So if we go ahead and press circle and then exit to XMB to close out of this application, we have everything installed. So if I head over to the Gold 10 settings, I can go to the plugin settings, enable the plugins loader, and the game patch plugin is all available. So that is the general idea here, guys. You can set up the entire jailbreak from scratch just using the Blu-ray disc. So you've got the Gold 10 payload that is on the disc. It will only load it from the disc again if there is not a payload already on the hard drive or the USB drive. So it'll favor loading from the USB drive first so that you can easily update the Gold 10 payload on the hard drive if you need to. Just load it with a USB drive plugged in that has the updated payload on there, and it will load that version and copy it to the hard drive. So whenever you load the disc in future, it will load the updated version. So it's very easy to update Gold 10, just like the original project, but only if there isn't a payload already available on the USB or on the hard drive will it load the one from the disc if you don't have either option. So it will be able to load it from just the disc if necessary. And then also we've got all of the homebrew applications that we can install from the disc as well using the package installer. And then you can also install the additional extras like the payloads for Payload Guest and the cheats, patches and plugins using the PS4 Explorer application and the PS4 Cheats Managers. And this is version 1.2 of Geginez Blu-ray Exploit, which means it also has the AIO fix patch applied so that when we load certain games that were previously having black screen or save data corruption issues, those issues are also resolved in this particular version. So it applies the patch automatically when you load the exploit, the AIO patch, which fixes the black screen issues, allowing games like this to launch normally. So there we go. So that's basically it. That's how you can set up the jailbreak fully, completely offline with everything included that you need on the one disc. Hope you guys enjoyed this video or found the information useful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. And as always, I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one.